At least 25 people are arrested after large crowds of anti-Israel demonstrators tried to disrupt the Met Gala in New York, clashing with police. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that and other protests going on across the nation.
Police arrested multiple anti-Israel demonstrators in New York City as they tried to make their way to the Met Gala, a prestigious event supporting the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Commotion as police try to get protesters under control, wrestling them over a car. Here, officers have other protesters subdued as a surrounding crowd seems upset, yelling at police to remove their knees from the suspect's back. Here, young men with Jewish flags are led away by police. A Palestinian flag flies as a crowd, some wearing keffiyeh, stands on a corner. A man yells at a police officer using profane language. Police guard outside the Met Gala as a demonstrator shouts at them.
How many cases is it gonna take for you to wake up? Y'all do nothing but hide behind your back.
Here, protesters gather around a monument and then engage in prayer. The New York Post reported that over 1,000 marchers were stopped from reaching the Met Gala. Some reportedly later congregated in Central Park, where a World War I monument was vandalized with pro-Gaza messages and an American flag was set on fire. A large group of faculty members from the University of Chicago defended an anti-Israel student encampment Monday morning. Associate Professor Anton Ford says their most immediate concern is for the well-being of the students.
We don't want them getting beat up just because they're camping on the lawn.
The university must not employ police force to put an end to students' protests.
At MIT, hundreds of anti-Israel demonstrators returned to an encampment on Monday evening after being evicted last week. Demonstrators rushed through fencing and linked arms around the area where more than a dozen tents still stood. Columbia University canceled its large university-wide commencement ceremony Monday, following weeks of anti-Israel protests. The White House reacts to the cancellation.
And it is unfortunate that a small group of people went too far and cost their classmates this important event.
Commit to being louder.
Pro-Israel demonstrators gathered near Columbia on Monday. They had a rally in support of embattled Jewish, Israeli American, and Israeli students facing harassment, intimidation, or violence. Over to Europe, Dutch riot police ended an anti-Israel demonstration at an Amsterdam university early on Tuesday, arresting some 125 people in sometimes violent clashes. Local media reported demonstrators shooting fireworks at police officers, but there were no immediate reports of injuries on either side. Meanwhile, in Belgium, more than 100 students are occupying Ghent University in both a climate and a Gaza protest. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Free, free Palestine!
President Biden is set to unveil a series of new measures today aimed at addressing the rise of anti-Semitism.
He's giving a keynote address at an event hosted by the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. The White House says President Biden will use this platform to reaffirm the nation's never again commitment to the Jewish people.
In particular, Biden plans to discuss the rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses. New measures to combat it will include Department of Education guidance to schools.
We'll have an update later here on NTD News.
And coming up, a deadly tornado, apple-sized hail, nearly 100 million people under a severe storm threat. The latest on some fierce weather hitting the U.S.
And the Indiana primaries are today. A look at the governor's race, where Trump-backed Senator Mike Braun is the frontrunner, and other key congressional contests. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
We all know that words have power. They set things in motion.
And make us happy or sad.
But there's one word that stands out because when people say it, lives are changed. It's not a big word.
It's itsy bitsy.
It's only 3 little letters. But when you say it,
The life of a kid like me can be changed.
so, what is this special word?
It may surprise you.
It's yes!
Yes.
Yes! Yes to becoming a monthly supporter of Shriners Hospitals for Children. That's right. Your monthly support allows the doctors and nurses at Shriners Hospitals for Children to give the most amazing care anywhere and change the lives of kids like me. And me.
And me.
Because people like you have said yes. Now I can play football. And I can play catch.
And I can walk.
So what do you say? Will you say yes right now? It's so easy. All you have to do is pick up the phone or go to loveshriners.org right now and say yes. When you say yes to giving just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of all the kids you're helping every day. My life is filled with possibility because of the monthly support of people just like you who called the number on your screen and said yes.
Yes.
Yes! Yes! Your yes is making a difference in my life and the lives of so many other kids like me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for giving.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to say yes right away.
There is a road laid out for me.
Boxes everywhere. And this is gonna be Addie's room.
I am blind,
Would you really like it?
I hope so. Yeah. I know this road is there for me. There is a long way.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
The ways down by the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
I got this.
I know this road is there for me.
Okay.
If I'm really free, take me down to the river and wash me.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
Former President Trump's lawyers say they might ask for sanctions against special counsel Jack Smith, depending on what a new bid for discovery turns up.
This after Smith's team told the court the order of some files and evidence boxes was not the same as when collected in an FBI search. Prosecutors in a recent filing wrote it was inconsistent with what was previously understood and represented to the court.
Trump's lawyers yesterday argued prosecutors' handling of key evidence could be grounds for the case to be thrown out.
Judge Eileen Cannon paused a Thursday deadline for the defense on certain pretrial disclosures. She said there would be a follow-up order to reset pretrial deadlines and hearings. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has the latest in Trump's classified documents case.
Trump's defense team says they might file a motion to dismiss charges in his classified documents case if Smith's office can't reliably prove how it seized and handled key evidence. Smith's team says the order of some files and physical boxes of documents do not match digital scans. Now Trump's legal team says it will file more motions, including a possible request for sanctions against Smith. Lawyers for Trump co-defendant Walt Nauta first flagged the issues. Trump's lawyers followed up, saying they hadn't examined the boxes for themselves when they had the scans, writing it never occurred to them until last Friday that the prosecution could not be trusted to maintain the integrity of evidence, despite having expansive resources. Defense attorneys are asking for all communications and documents given to teams that handled evidence, including any memos, reports, letters, or notes. The defense wants chain of custody documents for boxes stored at the FBI office in Miami and for boxes flown to Washington, D.C. Trump's lawyers also asked for documents on the FBI process, used to replace handwritten sheets with classified cover sheets. Defense attorneys asked Smith's team for clarification on differences between physical boxes and scans, and prosecutors' reasons for allowing access. House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan launched a probe into Smith Monday. Jordan says Smith's acknowledgement raises grave concerns about impartial judgment and whether Smith's office misled a federal court. The Judiciary Committee is asking the Justice Department for all documents and communications related to the matter and gave a 2-week deadline. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
At least one person is dead and several others injured after a tornado struck a small town near Tulsa, Oklahoma. The twister destroyed homes and toppled trees and power lines last night.
The storm started earlier Monday with gusty winds and rain. Tornadoes were then spotted after dark in northern Oklahoma. The storm in the small town of Covington produced multiple tornadoes over a period of an hour.
In Kansas, some areas were pelted by apple-sized hail 3 inches in diameter. Nearly 100 million people from Texas to Pennsylvania are under a severe storm threat today.
And the Ohio Valley is likely to see the worst of the storms, according to the Storm Prediction Center.
Most of Indiana, northern Kentucky, and western Ohio are under a level 3 out of 5 threat.
Indiana is holding primaries today. Several congressional districts, contests, and the race for governor are garnering the most attention. The lead candidate to replace term-limited Governor Eric Holcomb is Trump-backed Senator Mike Braun.
An April poll showed Braun with a large lead over multiple challengers, even though he faced criticism in the past for supporting the Black Lives Matter movement and saying he would join their march.
With Braun running for governor, Republicans have united behind Congressman Jim Banks to replace him in the U.S. Senate.
The most notable House races on the ballot are the Republican primaries in the 3rd District, which Banks is giving up to run for Senate, as well as the 5th, 6th, and 8th districts. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene says talks to possibly remove House Speaker Mike Johnson will continue.
The Georgia Congresswoman is leading an effort to mobilize hardline conservatives against Johnson. That sentiment intensified last month when he helped pass a major foreign aid package with assistance for Ukraine.
Greene met with Johnson for 2 hours yesterday, but would not say what they discussed.
I have been patient, I have been diligent, I have been steady, and I've been focused on the facts. And none of that has changed. So I just had a long discussion with the Speaker in his office about ways to move forward for a Republican-controlled House of Representatives.
I had a lengthy, constructive meeting, I think, with Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. I just want to say, and I told them, and I've said this repeatedly, that I understand the frustration, I share it. I would really like to advance much more of our conservative policy on a daily basis here, but the reality is we are working with the smallest majority in U.S. history with a 1-vote margin.
The two lawmakers said they will meet again today based on Monday's discussion.
Greene says she plans to push a vote on ousting Johnson this week. If she goes through with that, it's unlikely to succeed. Democratic leaders in the chamber have said they will vote to kill the effort.
Many Republicans are also opposed to the move. They don't want to see their party distracted by infighting like when Kevin McCarthy was ousted from the same role last year. And U.S. officials say an American soldier has been detained in Russia since last week. He was reportedly stationed in South Korea and traveled to Russia on his own. Moscow authorities accused him of stealing from a woman and arrested him on charges of, quote, criminal misconduct.
The U.S. Army said his family has been told about the situation and the State Department is working to provide consular support.
The soldier is just one of several Americans who are detained in Russia. 2 Ukrainian security officials allegedly planned to kill President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Ukrainian prosecutors today charged them with subversive activities against Ukraine in exchange for financial compensation.
The two were allegedly hired by Russia for the assassination. One of them is also being charged with aiding in the preparation of a terrorist act.
Ukraine's security service says the assassination would have been a gift to Putin for his inauguration today.
One of the suspects allegedly received 2 drones and ammunition from Russia. Prosecutors say it was intended for the suspect to transfer the weapons to an accomplice to carry out an explosion. Another high-ranking official would have allegedly been the target of that explosion.
And Boeing's Starliner isn't going to space just yet. NASA postponed yesterday's launch of the first manned test flight. NASA said there's a problem with the Atlas V rocket that carries the Starliner. The mission was scrubbed just 2 hours before liftoff. with 2 crew members strapped in and waiting for the countdown. The Starliner capsule was going to take the 2 astronauts to the International Space Station.
A spokesman said a pressure relief valve on the Atlas rocket started fluttering open and closed, making a loud noise. The valve might need to be replaced, delaying the launch until next week.
Engineers will determine if the valve is still usable. The launch team could try again as soon as Friday.
As for Boeing's commercial plane division, the Federal Aviation Administration has details on a new investigation. It says Boeing employees may have neglected some inspections for the 787 Dreamliner jets. The FAA wants to figure out if the inspections did happen or if employees falsified records. Regulators say a Boeing engineer came forward publicly last month with quality control allegations about several Boeing models, including the Dreamliner. The Boeing executive overseeing the 787 program shared an internal memo with CNN. In it, he wrote that the issue is an instance of misconduct, but not an immediate safety issue. During the investigation, the FAA says Boeing employees will inspect the Dreamliners not yet delivered to airline customers. And Social Security and Medicare won't be able to fully pay benefits starting in just over a decade, according to a new report. The annual report from the Entitlement Program's trustees says if Congress doesn't address the pending shortfalls, there will be fewer options. The report says the combined Social Security trust funds are expected to be exhausted in 2035. Following that, payroll tax revenue and other income sources will only be able to cover 83% of benefits owed. Meanwhile, Medicare funds are expected to be able to cover scheduled inpatient hospital benefits until 2036. In 2023, around 67 million Americans received Social Security benefits. Both President Biden and former President Trump have promised during their campaigns to protect Social Security and Medicare.
Up ahead, Title IX changes, FAFSA issues, and anti-Israel protests on college campuses. The Department of Education faces numerous controversies. Now it's facing Republican Congresswoman Virginia Foxx, chair of the Committee on Education and the Workforce, at a hearing today. We'll take you there.
I have never seen a production any better than this, anywhere.
Breathtaking. It is absolutely stunning.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
Invigorating. It was encouraging, gave me hope.
This has just been therapy for the soul.
It's a must-see, must-see.
Make sure you see it. Make sure you see it.
Coming to Lincoln Center, NJ Pack, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. ShenYun.com.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
the difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
Freedom is not free, and neither is the truth. In order to bring you the facts, our reporters are out there on the front lines getting the true story. Some of them served 10 years of prison in China. We've been censored on social media. Our Hong Kong printing offices were set on fire, and we've been repeatedly attacked by the Chinese Communist Party. But no matter what, we believe that you deserve the truth, and so we'll continue to bring the truth to life. Head on over to getepic.com and try honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Now we turn to a hearing on the U.S. Department of Education. Numerous social issues are drawing attention to this part of the federal government.
From Title IX changes to the anti-Israel protests on college campuses, the House Committee on Education and the Workforce could cover a lot of ground today.
Let's watch.
In calculated investments to accelerate learning and success. It's the responsible choice to invest in a stronger future for all Americans by boosting funding to close opportunity and achievement gaps in low-income communities through Title I, support students with disabilities through IDEA, support multilingual learners through Title III, and recruit, prepare, retain, and develop great teachers. It is the responsible choice to invest in safer schools and the mental health of our students by making more funding available for more school counselors and mental health professionals. It is the responsible choice to give more young people access to the American dream by building more pathways to rewarding careers and opening doors to higher education for all students by improving college affordability, retention, and completion, including through free community college and increased student supports. And it's the responsible choice to fully honor the caps under the Bipartisan Fiscal Responsibility Act, as this budget does. Let me emphasize, when we get beyond all the noise and efforts by some to create division, there is, in fact, so much common ground about what matters most for our nation's students, such as getting all students to read by third grade, providing mental health supports in the midst of a youth mental health crisis, opening up college and career pathways so students have more options for rewarding lives and rewarding careers, and making higher education more affordable and more accessible for those who choose that path. I know, too, that we have common ground when it comes to our horror at the appalling anti-Semitism we are seeing on some college campuses. As President said last week, there should be no place on any campus, no place in America for anti-Semitism or threats of violence against Jewish students. There is no place for hate speech or violence of any kind. The Biden-Harris administration, including the Department of Education, is taking action each and every day to help ensure that schools and colleges are free from discrimination and safe for Jewish students and all students, and will continue to do so. Make no mistake, anti-Semitism is discrimination and is prohibited by Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Dissent is essential to democracy, but dissent must never lead to disorder or to denying the right of others so students can finish their semester and their college education. Hate has no place on college campuses, and every student deserves to learn in an environment where they can feel free to be themselves without discrimination or fear for their safety. That is why our budget provides for more resources for our Office for Civil Rights to continue its strong response. And I hope to work with you in partnership and in constructive dialogue. We can raise the bar for our nation's students, and we can do it together. I look forward to working with you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Under Committee Rule 9, we'll now question the witness under the 5-minute rule. I ask members to keep your questions succinct so the witness has time to answer. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questioning. Mr. Secretary, you've been proudly volunteering the taxpayers to take on the student loan debt of largely wealthy college graduates. Do you believe that students who spend their time in college calling for the destruction of an ethnic or religious group, or spend their time preventing students of particular ethnic or religious groups from walking around campus freely, or spend their time occupying campus buildings, deserve to have their education paid for by taxpayers?
Couldn't hear you that well, but if you're making reference to the student debt relief plan that we've done, I'm really proud of the work that we're doing to provide a lifeline for students who chose to go to college and are living
But I'm talking about the students who are being anti-Semitic and stopping Jewish students from being able to go to class and threatening them. Do you want to have the taxpayers pay their loans off?
I believe that students who are breaking the law and are disrupting the educational environment should be held to account. I believe it's important that all students have access to their higher education classes and graduation.
Well, then will you commit to ensuring that no student has harassed other students or prevented other students from going to class or broken laws receives any form of student loan forgiveness?
We are committed to making sure that campuses are safe. I condemn any form of hate or any violence on campus. I've spoken to students and educators who have experienced that, and it's our responsibility.
Well, we'd like you to follow through on those who do break the law and make sure they don't receive student loan forgiveness. Mr. Secretary, the COO at FSA needs to have a deep and vast knowledge of how loan operations work, given FSA is de facto the largest consumer bank in the country. Indeed, the performance-based organization statute contemplates high expectations of the COO. The COO needs to be an operational and lending expert and have a keen understanding of massive lending operations. Will you commit to finding a replacement for Richard Cordray, who has real-world experience leading a massive lending operation, so that we can be assured that the financial interests of the taxpayers are protected?
Thank you for the question. I am committed to making sure we have a chief operating officer that has experience, and I look forward to working with you on a process to select.
Thank you. In a similar vein, since September 19, 2023, I've been asking for the performance bonus for FY22 of COO Cordray and FY23 for senior FSA staff, including COO Cordray. This has been met with delay after delay after delay. This should not be hard, as these bonuses are required to be made public. If I do not receive the information requested by noon on the 14th, you will be facing a subpoena. As I mentioned earlier, FSA is a performance-based organization and has the ability to award bonuses to select employees, including the chief operating officer. Did the errors that KPMG found in FY 2022 and FY 2023 in conducting the department's financial audits result in a reduction or elimination of bonuses paid to senior department and FSA staff?
Thank you for the question.
Simple answer, yes or no.
Thank you for the question, Chairwoman Fox. We take responding to your request very seriously, and we'll continue to share information with you. I'll make sure that we're communicating with your team on a timeline for providing you the information.
Did the audit have an impact on the bonuses? Yes or no?
Within the communication, I would make sure that the answer to your question is there. I can tell you that we take, the audit information that we receive very seriously.
Okay.
And
what are the practical consequences of the department's failure to obtain a clean audit for each of the last 2 years?
Well, we recognize how important it is to work with our auditors, and we've gotten disclaimers of opinions in the past, and we're continuing to work with our auditors to make sure that the information they provide us is used as we continue to improve practices every year.
Okay. On March 6th, I transmitted a letter to you voicing my concerns about the department's 16% occupancy rate. It's been 2 months since I wrote to you about and 3.5 months since the White House Chief of Staff requested you and other federal department leaders submit a return to office action plan. Will you commit to me today you'll provide the information and documents that I requested no later than May 17?
I absolutely commit to providing you that information as quickly as possible. I hope before May 17th. And I know that we've increased those numbers significantly, so I'm proud of the progress we're making.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I now recognize Mr. Courtney for 5 minutes.
Thank you, thank you, Madam Chairwoman and Secretary Cardona. Thank you for your service and your presence here today. So last Friday, the U.S. Department of Labor issued its monthly jobs report. It showed that the U.S. economy added 175,000 new jobs, defying again all of the skeptics and naysayers. We are now at a place where for 27 consecutive months, the U.S. unemployment rate has been below 4%. That has never happened in the history of this country. But even with those numbers, we still have 8.5 million job openings in the U.S. economy. One of the things that I think is so unique about your life experience and what you bring to the job is that you are a graduate of a career in technical high school, Wilcox Tech in Meriden, Connecticut, who today, along with career and technical schools all over the country, are on fire in terms of making sure that young people are able to take advantage of these record number of job openings. And one of your initiatives at the Department of Education has also been the Career Connected High School program, which again is about getting not just trade schools, but comprehensive high schools.
Right.
No young person should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep at night, or a warm meal to eat, or whether anyone cares about them.
I grew up in poverty, and I actually became physically homeless right after I turned 16.
I didn't have anywhere to sleep, and I didn't really have friends or family that could support me.
To be homeless as a teen, I didn't ask for that.
1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year, and that's unacceptable. But the good news is there is an organization making a big difference. Covenant House.
For the young people who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations, Covenant House is there providing safety, hope, and a brighter future. Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love.
For over 50 years, Covenant House has been helping youth in crisis and giving them the support and tools they need to succeed in life.
Without the Covenant House, I honestly could not tell you where I would be today.
Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
I would not be here today if it weren't for the kindness of strangers, people who donated to Covenant House so that they could support me when I couldn't support myself.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life.
Your monthly gift is urgently needed to reach young people in communities like yours who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations.
Your support makes the work of Covenant House possible.
Call or go online to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Dave's Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Dave's enzyme fermented coffee.
When they learn something new and you can just see in their faces, it's such an incredible moment. It's those moments that are my favorite.
Next, we continue our coverage of a Department of Education hearing. We'll hear testimony from Education Secretary Miguel Cardona.
This hearing is hosted by the House Committee on Education and the Workforce. Chair Virginia Fox has called it an opportunity to hold Secretary Cardona accountable for his partisan agenda.
Let's tune back into that now.
People got it in the last administration. 98% denial rate. In 3 years, we've provided 875,000 borrowers. These are teachers, nurses, veterans, with almost $62 billion in debt relief. And I'll bring attention to a teacher that I spoke to in New York who took out a loan for $30,000, ended up having to pay $60,000 because of interest. Well, she received debt relief, and now she's able to buy a home. These are the stories that are happening with public service loan forgiveness.
Because you're obeying the law. I yield back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Courtney. Mr. Wilson, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And Ms. Secretary, my wife's a teacher. I just have such a high regard for the education profession. That's why I want it to be local. I believe in local elected school boards. I did not favor the creation of the Department of Education. Every effort of devolution power back to the states. We've got a great Superintendent Ellen Weaver in my home state of South Carolina. Every way to send it back to elected school boards is what should be done. Every school district is different. And every communities are different within the school districts. And so the federal government just cannot possibly understand or address the issues properly. With that in mind, another issue, of course, that you've just referenced, with Section 117 of the Higher Education Act requires institutions of higher education that receive federal financial assistance to disclose semi-annually to the U.S. Department of Education any gifts received and any contracts with a foreign source that alone or combined are valued at $250,000 or more in a calendar year. Your administration has decided to move this Section 117 enforcement to the Federal Student Office of Federal Student Aid, which has already overworked. What is the status of these reports? And this is really critical because we've got dictatorships today, whether it be war criminal Putin, it could be the Chinese Communist Party, it could be, we know, the regime in Tehran. All are trying to, through disinformation, destroy our country. And so what's being done to try to stop any disinformation?
Thank you for that question, Congressman. And first of all, happy Teacher Appreciation Week to your wife and to all the teachers across the country. You know, Section 117 is a very important section, and we take the responsibility of communicating gifts very seriously. We've reported close to 39,000 foreign gifts worth $21 billion already. We believe that transparency is critical, and having it move under FSA allows us to do that more succinctly. As you know, we're a member of the FBI's National Counterintelligence Task Force. We communicate regularly to ensure that the law enforcement arms or the investigation arms are informed with information that we have. So that system is working well, and I agree with you that we need to protect our schools from foreign influence.
And you don't have to do this right now, but I would like a question I would like for the record, if you could get back with me, as to what is the status of maintaining these quarterly reports.
Okay.
This is just critically important because it's so sad at Yale, Stanford, and Harvard, in particular, there have been countless examples of raging anti-Semitism on the campus. These schools also had Section 117 investigations under the Trump administration. Your department has opened Title VI of the Civil Rights Act's investigations into these schools in the last few months. And we again see dictatorships trying to impact the American people as they're trying to promote their totalitarian, authoritarian view of the world. And we've just got to be prepared. And are you coordinating the open 117 investigations with the open Title VI investigations?
Thank you for that question. We have, as you know, a significant increase in Title VI investigations since October 7th attacks alone, over 100 new cases that we have, which is why we're asking for an increase to make sure that we have enough investigators to move on these cases. We take into account, depending on the investigation request, we take into account many different factors. So while not speaking generically, I can tell you that our Office for Civil Rights does take into account different factors when requests come in for investigation.
Well, I'm really greatly concerned. The FBI, Commissioner Wray, Director Wray, has warned that an attack is imminent here, or attacks are imminent across our country, and they can be facilitated by not acting against these anti-Semites who, hey, from the river to the sea, that's just a code for murder of the people of Israel. And we know that the Hamas covenant of August 18, 1988 provides Section 7, that you chase every Jew behind a rock and tree until you find the last Jew, and then with the last Jew behind a rock, you... Hey, and let me restate and make clear, because all of God's children should know, and that is that Section 7 of the Hamas covenant calls for chasing every Jew behind a rock or tree until you find the last Jew behind a rock and you kill him. And so it should be known by all Americans, and this should not be misunderstood. With that, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Sablan, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary Cardona, welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for continuing the BLSF program. Yeah, right. The student loan program. Yeah. Appreciate that. You mentioned in your testimony, Mr. Secretary, you mentioned mental health for schools. May is, as you know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, which provides a good opportunity to raise awareness about the importance of access to mental health services, especially for our students and school communities. We must also fight this month and every month to erase all stigma around seeking treatment for mental health concerns. I have heard firsthand from parents, teachers, school administrators, and students themselves about their concerns for their well-being, and I share this concern with you, Mr. Secretary. One transformational step towards addressing this growing need was the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. May I ask you, Mr. Secretary, can you tell me the status of different programs, also Stronger Connections grant program, the school-based mental health services grant, and the mental health service professional demonstration grant program? How do these programs help meet the mental health needs of today's students?
Yeah, thank you for the question. You're absolutely right. As Dr. Vivek Murthy identified, we are in a youth mental health crisis. And if we go back to the schools that we had in 2019, we are failing our children. We need to do better. I'm proud that the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act provided in education $2 billion for mental health supports, for professional development for staff, for Stronger Connections dollars to help ensure that school safety plans are appropriate and up to date. Those dollars have made a significant difference. We've seen a 40% increase during that time of school social worker availability. We've seen close to 30% more school nurses available to our students in our schools. It's sad to hear that we've normalized schools not having school nurses, and we have to do better. Our current budget asks for $40 million in mental health supports for our K-12 schools, knowing that students are 6 times more likely to access mental health supports if they're provided in our schools. So we're proud of that work, and we ask you to support that budget.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, on a small item that's very, very looms large in my district, the department's implementation of the FAFSA Simplification Act has regrettably produced uncertainties for students in my district. From the Northern Mariana Islands in particular, have faced numerous obstacles throughout this application cycle, and it must have been when they were designing the system, because you kept the one place in the United States out from the system, my district.
For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
Stay with us and we'll bring you more news in the next 2 hours.
A faith rich in beauty and tradition, uplifting the mind and body, persevering through decades of persecution. Watch our special coverage of the 2024 World Falun Dafa Day Parade live from New York City, starting 11 a.m. Eastern Time, here on NTD.
First time I came in here was Monday, and today is Thursday. I've had 2 surgeries and am doing fantastic. I'm still in shock that I can walk. That's all within 4 days. In 4th grade, I was diagnosed with scoliosis. I had 70 and 60-degree curvatures. Went to Shriners Hospital in LA. It's been fused ever since. I noticed a lot of pain going down my left buttock into my thighs and into my calf. I could be standing there and my legs would just go out. I went through pain management for 2.5 years, and the pain management specialist told me there was nothing more he could do for me. We actually did our own research, and next thing I know, Dr. Bonatti called and he told me immediately over the phone what my issue was without even seeing me. I was in a twilight stage during surgery, and you can actually say, where are you feeling that pain? And it immediately stops.
Hold the leg up there. No pain here?
No.
No pain here?
No.
No pain on the butt?
No. All of a sudden, they're all, do you want to get up and walk? Well, I couldn't walk before, and I got up and I just started crying because I had no pain. And I had all my weight on my left leg and on my right leg, and I walked a straight line with no assistance, no falling, no grabbing onto the walls, nothing. I held my own weight. And that's the first time in months that I was able to walk by myself.
Bonatti succeeds where others fail. For more stories like these and the rest of our program, check out American Medicine Today, featuring cutting-edge medical and science innovators and a medical professional's insight on political and social issues plaguing our nation and healthcare. American Medicine Today, Saturdays 6 and Sundays at 9 on NTD Television and other streaming platforms.
When I drink it, the first thing was I feel the warmth in my tummy. It's kind of like gently radiating out, a kind of a very comforting warmth. And it was really good, actually. I felt much better. I did feel, actually, an effect. And I find that it is actually better when I take it regularly.
It's actually steamed and dried 9 times. And so it's really, the essence is really extracted.
Then a second time, I tried it really like on an empty stomach and just 2 teaspoons of it, and over a few times. And wow, that was a big difference, because suddenly I could feel, wow, I was very good energized. I didn't have to eat. I could work outside in the garden for a couple of hours, and I still felt very well. And I was impressed by that. So I think it's a good product.
Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are today's top stories.
The adult performer known as Stormy Daniels is taking the stand today. This as former President Trump's so-called hush money trial continues.
Israeli tanks roll into the city of Rafah as delegates head to Egypt for ceasefire and hostage talks. Find out more about the situation on the ground in Gaza.
Clashes with police as protesters try to disrupt the Met Gala. Plus, MIT students retake an encampment they were evicted from, knocking down police barriers. The latest from anti-Israel protests.
Education Secretary Miguel Cardona will face scrutiny at a hearing today. Chair Virginia Fox has called it an opportunity to hold Secretary Cardona accountable for his partisan agenda.
The Indiana primaries are today. A look at the governor's race, where Trump-backed Senator Mike Braun is the front-runner, and other key congressional contests.
Social Security funds are expected to hit major issues in 2035, and Medicare trust fund reserves are expected to be depleted 5 years earlier than forecast. What this means for your scheduled benefits.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Adult film actress Stormy Daniels took the stand today in former President Trump's criminal trial.
Here's the former president commenting on media reports of the ongoing trial.
Some of the statements made about this witch hunt on CNN, fake news CNN, Michael Moore said the proof of falsifying records has not been accomplished. On Good Morning America, they said, we heard that expense payments to lawyers are legal expenses. Also, NBC Today showed the challengers that there is no smoking gun, no email or tape to prove the president's intent. They don't have a way to prove that. That's NBC Today show. And then Fox News, Katie Cherkasky, said that the gag order is unconstitutional, which of course it is. The gag order is unconstitutional. So with all that's going on, they have no case.
Adult film actress Stormy Daniels, who's at the center of this case, began her testimony by talking about her life experience and career. Her real name is Stephanie Clifford.
The judge asked her to slow down after she spoke too fast. Trump's defense team has objected to Daniels testifying about intimate details of her alleged relationship with Trump.
Prosecutors say Trump covered up a $130,000 hush money payment his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, made to Daniels allegedly in the run-up to the 2016 election.
Daniels' testimony follows that of Sally Franklin, a senior vice president at the publishing company Penguin Random House. Her testimony was about some of Trump's previous books and the use of ghostwriters.
Turning now to updates on the Israel-Hamas war.
Israeli tanks are entering Rafah, and as an Israeli delegation heads to Cairo, Egypt, for ceasefire talks.
The War Cabinet unanimously decided Israel will continue its operation in Rafah in order to apply military pressure on Hamas to release our hostages and achieve all the war's objectives. Despite Hamas's grandstanding, Hamas's proposal is far from Israel's core demands. Nevertheless, Israel will dispatch a ranking delegation to Egypt to maximize any chance of an agreement on terms acceptable to Israel.
Israeli forces today took control of the Gaza side of the Rafah border crossing. The point of entry has been key to delivering humanitarian aid, but Israel said terrorists have also been using the crossing.
An Israeli source told NBC that this is a very limited operation to put pressure on Hamas during ceasefire talks, and that it's not the start of the ground offensive Israel has promised.
People in Gaza continue to flee Rafah following evacuation orders. The Israeli military said the vast majority of people in eastern Rafah have evacuated.
CIA Director William Burns is in Cairo along with Israeli delegates for ceasefire and hostage negotiations. A major disagreement is over whether the 33 hostages released in the first phase would be living or dead. Hamas said they could include dead bodies, while Israel demands living hostages. Joining us live for analysis of the situation in the Middle East is Avi Melamed, former Israeli intelligence official and former senior official on Arab affairs. Great to have you with us, Avi. And Israel said it has taken control of the Palestinian side of the Rafah crossing. Where does Israel's move on Rafah stand currently?
Well, the Israeli move in Rafah is very limited for the time being, but it's quite symbolic because Rafah crossing is the place, it's the major crossing point from Gaza to Egypt and backwards. There are actually two parts of this crossing. One is for pedestrians and the other one is for commodities. One part of this crossing is in Gaza, controlled by Hamas, at least until yesterday, and the other one is on the Egyptian side. So this is kind of like a more of a symbolic sort of speaking act, but it's quite meaningful as for itself.
Yeah, and how could it impact ceasefire talks, ongoing ones?
Well, clearly it's part of the Israeli interest and the United States interest and other players in the region, including Egypt, to put additional pressure on Hamas to move forward with the whole context of the negotiations regarding the possible release of the hostages. It's very clear that putting a military pressure is the only major way, in the end of the day, to move forward in that direction.
Now, the White House is opposed to Israel going into Rafah, and the UN said that it would be intolerable. What impact could this diplomatic backlash have on any potential Israeli campaign in Rafah?
Well, it's very clear that the Israeli, cabinet, the government, the heads of the army needs to take into consideration, of course, the U.S. position. I would say that at this point, to the best of my impression, there has not been real frictions between Israel and the U.S. administration regarding the current operation in Rafah and the features of that current operation in Rafah. Obviously, the question is what will happen down the road, whether this operation is going to be widened and if it's going to be encompassed with the need to evacuate large number of Palestinian citizens that are now in Gaza, in Rafah. That may potentially increase tension between Israel and the Biden administration, and that could, in its turn, impact the course and trajectory of a potential Israeli military operation in Rafah.
Now, the ceasefire talks that were unfolding last week seem to have fallen apart, but Israel is continuing to search for this ceasefire deal. Where do talks surrounding a potential ceasefire stand right now?
Well, it's unclear because there are different versions and different drafts that have been apparently appearing in the media. Some of those details are, to the best of my understanding, quite inaccurate. Some of them are partially accurate. We may also witness a very significant PR and deliberately transformed, sort of speaking, details that are not necessarily the nature of the negotiations going on. So I would say at this point that, roughly speaking, though there is some sort of like a general understanding about the general frame of such possible deal, which will be a multi-phase process, I think that at this point there are still many details that has to be further concluded, particularly when it comes to the very critical point where Hamas demand Israel to withdraw from all Gaza Strip and to end the war. Israel, on the other hand, says that's not going to happen before we have all the hostages back in our hand. A scenario that, to the best of my understanding, is not going to be fulfilled in the reasonable future that we see in front of us.
And Avi, just in closing here, Hamas has talked about delivering hostages that are dead or alive. Israel obviously wants living hostages. Where do we stand about this? What do we know about the hostages in Gaza?
Well, there is a growing concern within Israeli military and intelligence and political establishments that there is a large number of hostages who are unfortunately not alive. We also have to remember that it's very possible that some of the hostages are held by individuals from Gaza. And so that, of course, adds to the concern. Of course, the Hamas statement about the fact that he doesn't have allegedly the number of live hostages that he could or should release in the first phase of this agreement obviously adds to this concern. It's a real source for concern. I don't know to say if we have an accurate, clear details on that, but I would say that there is a lot of skepticism regarding the faith of many of the hostages.
All right, Avi Malabed, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time. At least 25 people are arrested after large crowds of anti-Israel demonstrators tried to disrupt the Met Gala in New York, clashing with police. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that and other protests going on across the nation.
Police arrested multiple anti-Israel demonstrators in New York City as they tried to make their way to the Met Gala, a prestigious event supporting the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Commotion as police try to get protesters under control, wrestling them over a car. Here, officers have other protesters subdued. as a surrounding crowd seems upset, yelling at police to remove their knees from the suspect's back. Here, young men with Jewish flags are led away by police. A Palestinian flag flies as a crowd, some wearing keffiyeh, stands on a corner. A man yells at a police officer using profane language. Police guard outside the Met Gala as a demonstrator shouts at them.
How many cases is it gonna take for you to wake up? Y'all do nothing but hide behind your back.
Here, protesters gather around a monument and then engage in prayer. The New York Post reported that over 1,000 marchers were stopped from reaching the Met Gala. Some reportedly later congregated in Central Park, where a World War I monument was vandalized with pro-Gaza messages and an American flag was set on fire. A large group of faculty members from the University of Chicago defended an anti-Israel student encampment Monday morning. Associate Professor Anton Ford says their most immediate concern is for the well-being of the students.
We don't want them getting beat up just because they're camping on the lawn.
The university must not employ police force to put an end to students' protests.
At MIT, hundreds of anti-Israel demonstrators returned to an encampment on Monday evening after being evicted last week. Demonstrators rushed through fencing and linked arms around the area where more than a dozen tents still stood. Columbia University canceled its large university-wide commencement ceremony Monday, following weeks of anti-Israel protests. The White House reacts to the cancellation.
And it is unfortunate that a small group of people went too far and cost their classmates this important event.
Commit to being louder.
Pro-Israel demonstrators gathered near Columbia on Monday. They had a rally in support of embattled Jewish, Israeli American, and Israeli students facing harassment, intimidation, or violence. Over to Europe, Dutch riot police ended an anti-Israel demonstration at an Amsterdam university early on Tuesday, arresting some 125 people in sometimes violent clashes. Local media reported demonstrators shooting fireworks at police officers, but there were no immediate reports of injuries on either side. Meanwhile, in Belgium, more than 100 students are occupying Ghent University in both a climate and a Gaza protest. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Indiana is holding primaries today. Several congressional district contests and the race for governor are garnering the most attention. The leading candidate to replace term-limited Governor Eric Holcomb is Trump-backed Senator Mike Braun.
An April poll showed Braun with a large lead over multiple challengers, even though he faced criticism in the past for supporting the Black Lives Matter movement and saying he would join their march.
With Braun running for governor, Republicans have united behind Congressman Jim Banks to replace him in the U.S. Senate.
The most notable House races on the ballot are the Republican primaries in the 3rd District, which Banks is giving up to run for Senate, as well as the 5th, 6th, and 8th districts. One person is dead and more were injured when a tornado tore through Oklahoma. Thousands are without power following destructive storms in the Great Plains.
The area between Barnsdall and Bartlesville, north of Tulsa, were hit most hard. Video footage shows the storm touching down late Monday. The twister damaged dozens of homes.
This is the second tornado that hit the town of Barnsdall in just 5 weeks. Tornado damage was also reported in Sullivan, Missouri, and DeKalb County, Tennessee.
Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska also experienced hail and strong wind gusts. The weather forecast shows thunderstorms moving north today into the Midwest and the Tennessee Valley.
Outage trackers show that about 10,000 people are still without power as of right now.
Coming up, Medicare Trust Fund reserves are expected to be depleted 5 years later than forecast. What this means for your scheduled benefits.
And 15 states are suing over the changes to Title IX. We speak to a grassroots organizer about how she's informing parents and what she recommends they do to get involved. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
watching this. I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms, but then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked and my wife was at my side and my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, you know, this could be it. This could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that. And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
Is it time yet?
It's time.
Let's go and have for dinner.
Oh, terrific.
Donating pet food is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
There's always a searching process for beauty. You know it when you see it.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
Joining us now is NTD Business Matters host Don Ma to give us the latest updates from the tech and business world.
Don Ma, good to see you. What do you have for us today?
Yeah, good to see you, Chris Beers, Steph. Okay, so let me start off with this. The Medicare Trust Fund is going to be exhausted in 2026, and the combined Social Security Trust Fund, that's going to be exhausted in 2035.
Yeah.
Sorry, pardon me. So 36 and 2035.
So we have a bit of time.
Yes,
Right.
yes, we have a bit more than 10 years, and this is according to the program's trustees' projections yesterday. So what happens after that date is that the program that provides health care to seniors and some people who are disabled will only be able to get 89% of that pay. So this shows that the long-term insolvency problems for the programs, and together the programs actually make up the largest share of government outlays, costing $2.2 trillion in fiscal year 2023, or about 36% of the year's total. So the reason for this is pretty simple here. There's too many people taking out money from the fund and not enough people paying into it. So with the baby boom generation retiring, Congress will have some tough choices here. Ultimately, they'll need to either strengthen the program by raising revenues or reducing costs here, or in fact, just to simply cut benefits for people. So the Biden administration has rejected cutting benefits for people and has proposed, increasing payroll taxes on the wealthy. So those Americans earning more than $400,000 a year.
And we saw some creative ideas coming out during the primaries, various contestants having ideas on how to solve this. So we'll have to see, with the next administration, how that evolves. But next up, Disney's reported earnings this morning. What's the latest news regarding Disney Plus?
Okay, so yeah, Disney did report earnings earlier today. So I wanted to mention Disney Plus because it is reporting its first quarterly profit since streaming service launched in 2019. So that's pretty important here. And the entertainment giant reports that its video streaming division, which includes Disney Plus and Hulu, has turned a quarterly profit, that is, for the very first time. It was a surprise for investors as Disney had forecast that division wouldn't reach profitability for another 2 quarters. So some analysts and investors were skeptical it would happen that soon, but it did. The unit posted a net profit of $47 million for the quarter, and that's compared to a loss of $587 million in the same quarter a year ago. And just another thing, Disney Plus added more than 6 million subscribers, excluding India, that is, during the latest quarter, and that brings the total number of subscriptions to nearly 18 million. Meanwhile, Disney's sports streaming service, ESPN, and Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, not Disney Plus, it reported a quarterly loss of $18 million.
I mean, Disney has such a strong hold in people's minds all over the world. I mean, everyone knows Disney, so I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of ride that out and make some profit here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people subscribe to Disney Plus. I mean, initially it was a loss-making operation here, but it wanted to attract more people and in hopes that it'll gain some profit here, and it did. So I mean, let's see if that continues.
Absolutely. All right, thank you so much, Don.
Thank you,
Don Ma. Thank you. The Biden administration's changes to Title IX are now sparking backlash at the grassroots level. 15 states have filed suit. Now a grassroots organization seeks to inform parents about the changes to protections for women and girls in federally funded institutions. We speak with Tiffany Justice, the co-founder of Moms for Liberty, about how her group is empowering a nationwide response. Tiffany Justice, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me on today to talk about Title IX.
Yeah, now over a dozen states are filing suit against these changes. But what can moms and dads do at the grassroots level to respond?
Moms for Liberty is all about empowering parents and helping them to be effective advocates. So we put together a toolkit for parents because so many people have questions when it comes to Title IX. And so we've put together a really great comprehensive list of resources for parents. You can see the letters that superintendents have sent to their school districts so far. You can see a listing of the lawsuits challenging Title IX. But most importantly, we give you some calls to action, things that you can do at the state, at the local level, school board, at the state level, and then at the level of the federal government in order to have your voice heard against this radical overhaul of Title IX.
And can you give us some examples of some of those things that people can do?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can send a letter to your school board. It's really important for your school board to know that while this rule is supposed to go into effect on August 1st, you're aware of a lot of legal challenges to this bill, and you want to make them aware of that as well. You can ask them a lot of questions. Are you preparing to make any changes in your school district regarding Title IX? Are you going to hire a Title IX coordinator and dedicate funds to this issue? Will you be allowing boys to play on my daughter's sports team or to be able to use the bathroom with my daughter or go into the locker room and change clothes? And then further, are you going to to have secret conversations with my children? If my child expresses some type of mental distress to you, are you going to keep that from me and become what they call in these documents a confidential ally of the child, which is in really obliterating, parental rights. I get so emotional about the idea, honestly, of a school thinking that they know better than the parent for the child. And then at the state level, we want to make sure you have a parent's Bill of Rights in your states. Now, this Title IX rule will supersede a lot of state law. That's what it seeks to do, but it's still important to have your voice heard at that state level. And then we can talk a little bit about the federal government and the Congressional Review Act if you'd like.
Yeah, can we?
Absolutely. So from the time that the rule was put out, the House and the Senate, both chambers of Congress, have 60 legislative days in order to be able to invoke something called the Congressional Review Act, where they can vote this rule down. Now, I don't have a lot of faith that President Biden is going to listen to the will of the people of the United States of America, but he certainly should. Overwhelmingly, we're seeing in polling that the majority of Americans do not want private conversations happening with their children in schools, and they do not want boys playing on girls' sports teams.
Now, I want to bring it back to the moms and dads out there watching this who might not have the same kind of track record that you have with, exacting meaningful change in society. What does it take to really move the needle on things?
Yeah, so our mission statement is to unify, educate, and empower parents to defend their parental rights at all levels of government. And that's what it really does take. It takes brave people to stand up in whatever job, profession you're in and say, hey, wait a second, I believe in the truth. Sex is binary. There are men and there are women. And I promise you, you are not the only person in that office building, standing in that school board meeting that thinks that too. And so we need to unify people, bring them together, educate them on this issue. That's why the Title IX resource page is so important. You need to have all of the tools in order to be able to talk about this rule, to know what it's going to do in order to fight back effectively, and then empower people, make people understand that they need to have their voice heard too. So that's what we seek to do with a lot of the resources at Moms for Liberty.
All right, Tiffany Justice, co-founder of Moms for Liberty, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, the Education Secretary testifies before Congress. Changes to sex discrimination laws, federal student aid, as well as anti-Semitism on college campuses. All are on the table when we return with NTD News.
A performance that truly matters. For each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. Coming to Lincoln Center, NJ Pack, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. Starting March 28th. Tickets at shenyun.com.
We've been spending a lot more time than ever at home these days. So maybe now you've just noticed cold air coming in from a couple windows, or that your patio door isn't closing fully, which means you're losing heat in the winter, losing cooling in the summer, losing money all year long. And that means now is the time for new windows and patio doors from Renewal by Andersen. Most installations are usually done in just one day. Renewal by Andersen windows and doors can help lower your heating bills and air conditioning bills with their most energy efficient glass available. Only their windows are made with Fibrex material, proven to be 2 times stronger than vinyl, and they're backed by a 20-year warranty. And right now, when you buy one window or patio door, get one at 40% off. Plus, there's no money down, no payments for 12 months, and no interest for 12 months. Plus, an additional $200 off your entire purchase.
1-800-968-1443. The 2024 NTD 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is scheduled to take place at Merkin Hall, Kaufman Music Center in New York from September 18th to 21st. The competition specially invites vocalists from the world-famous Shen Yun Performing Arts to serve as judges. The prestigious Gold Award is $10,000. Chinese vocal artists aged 18 to 50 are welcome to register.
All right, I'm at the house, and I'm gonna head inside. Okay, come on, this door. I'm in the house.
What do you see?
Let me check the den. There's nothing in the den. Let me check the kitchen. There's no one downstairs, it looks like.
Wait, what was that?
I don't know. Let me head upstairs.
What do you see?
What the? Did you shut this bathroom door?
No.
Oh,
What?
It's not here.
What do you mean?
The gun's not here.
What? Where is it?
Oh my God.
What's going on?
Cam.
Oh my God, what's going
Cameron, are you in there? Open the door. Cam, please, please, open the door, Cameron. Come on, Cam.
We're in the nation's capital asking the important questions so that you're in the know. Join us daily, Monday through Friday, on the Capitol Report on NTD News.
And now we turn to a hearing on the U.S. Department of Education. Numerous social issues are drawing attention to this part of the federal government at the moment.
From Title IX changes to the anti-Israel protests on college campuses, the House Committee on Education and the Workforce could cover a lot of ground today.
Let's watch.
Your staff, and we do believe what we're
That's
doing
yes.
is fixing a broken system, sir. Yes.
Distance or online education has opened the doors to post-secondary education for all types of students, including helping adults connect to credential programs in in-demand fields such as cybersecurity and the many technology careers our economy and security depends on. Do you support allowing students to have access to distance education that is a flexible option for working students?
I do recognize that
Yes.
online institution.
Okay. Do you believe colleges of all sizes should be able to provide distance education programs that meet the standards of their students and the workforce?
Sorry, I couldn't hear your question. I was responding to the last.
Okay. Do you believe colleges of all sizes should be able to provide distance education programs that meet the needs of their students and the workforce?
If they can do it in a high-quality way, I wouldn't make
Yes.
a blanket statement
Okay.
that all schools could.
Then why has the department proposed a requirement which would prohibit a college that enrolls more than 500 students in a distance education program from being authorized by its state through a reciprocity agreement?
So we recognize the importance of giving students an opportunity to have online learning, and even with institutions that are not in their state, what we want to make sure we're doing is protecting students also, and if a school closes or if there was a challenge with their programming, that they would be protected from paying loans and an education they didn't
Mr.
receive.
Secretary, with all due respect, let me tell you what this proposal would do. Here's one example. Georgia Tech offers one of the lowest cost online master's degree programs in the country. Prestigious university in my state. For less than $10,000, this degree prepares workers for cybersecurity, computer science, and data analytics careers. Georgia leads the nation in development of cyber talent and research, with 10 of our colleges and universities focused on cyber. The U.S. Army Cyber Command is headquartered in my district, and professional degrees that prepare the cyber workforce should not be stopped by arbitrary regulations that will only stifle cost-effective education. Why is 500 the magic number? Where did you get the number? Do you believe distance education programs with 501 students are somehow not worthy of an innovative approval process and they must jump through more burdensome hoops to be offered?
I agree with you. Georgia has some amazing institutions, and I want to make sure I work with you and my team works with you to identify the concerns there and work with you to make sure Georgia schools have the opportunities.
Mr. Secretary, I got just about a minute left. I need to move on. Last year, I asked you if you believe canceling student loans would reduce the cost of college. Here we are today, and CPO predicts annual borrowing will increase by 10 to 15 billion over the next decade because colleges will raise tuition rates, and since they know taxpayers will forgive loans as a result of your student loan agenda. So, Mr. Secretary, I need a clear answer for the record today. Yes or no? Are you still committed to making hardworking Georgians with no student loan debt pay for the student loans of terrorist-supporting Columbia University students who have over $100,000 in debt?
We are committed to fixing a broken higher education system, sir, and we can get a lot farther if we work together to make sure that the students in your district can benefit from it.
Well, as college campuses have been thrown into chaos, Americans are waking up to what happens as a result of radical progressive agenda, and Americans don't like it. This includes radical debt cancellation, and I yield back.
I'd like to now recognize Mr. Chair Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Secretary Cardona, and thank you for your dedication to our students throughout your life and here in this position. Since taking office, the Biden administration has worked to erase the burden of student debt. This includes canceling debt for 876,000 people, including teachers and firefighters, through the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. It includes canceling debt for almost 1 million people through improving income-driven repayment, and 1.6 million for of defrauded students. And just last week, students who were scammed by the now defunct Art Institute of Seattle, who I had met with in my district, finally saw relief after more than a decade, while the previous administration made the process so unworkable that Congress rebuked it on a bipartisan basis. Together, these steps have canceled $160 billion for 4.6 million borrowers, and my understanding is that another 20 to 25 million students will be eligible through programs that you recently announced. This is financial breathing room for students and families who were just trying to get a higher education, improve their skills so they could contribute to our communities, our economy, and our country. All borrowers turn to loans as a step toward economic prosperity, but student debt makes it so impossible for many. And I think it's important that we remember that more than 80% of borrowers report that it holds them back from being able to become homeowners, something you were talking about just in a previous answer. Additionally, 56% of borrowers have to choose between repaying and affording rent and groceries. No one should be stuck with these kinds of payments that they can't afford. Secretary Cardona, your department released its first of 2 proposed rules to provide additional student debt relief. What type of borrowers will benefit the most, and how will this improve their financial well-being?
Well, thank you for that. The borrowers that would benefit most are those who have had runaway interest. And I mentioned a teacher who had $30,000 just in interest. That prevented her from being able to even attack the principal of the loan. So that's one. I mentioned public servants. You talked about teachers and firefighters. Bipartisan bill. We want to make sure that you don't have to jump through hoops to apply for that. If you worked for 10 years in public service, if you've paid your loans, it should be automatically discharged. We have a teacher shortage, we have a nurse shortage, and we wonder why. So we're trying to make it simpler to have access to a bipartisan bill that was passed in 2007.
Thank you. Textbooks have been an enormous strain on students' finances. They can cost up to $1,200 annually, and textbook costs are on track to double every 11 years. Students can save by buying used books or renting or borrowing from their library, but some institutions actually automatically bill students for their books. What is your department doing to prevent students from spending more than needed on their books or on other hidden fees that are really preventing students from accessing the kinds of supports they need for a quality education?
No, thank you for that question. As you know, this is in negotiated rulemaking, so I really can't comment on specifically, where we think we're going to end up. But we are taking a very close look at what students are paying for. I'll have 2 in college next year, and I recognize the different fees and what they add up to, and we want to make sure that our students are the information is transparent and they're getting what they're paying for, and it's not something that's assumed that they're going to need.
Thank you. I want to discuss federal K-12 education funding for children experiencing homelessness. Your department's 2023 guidance for American Rescue Plan homeless youth funding has really been an incredible lifeline for those families. For example, it helps schools provide gas cards for car repairs in an emergency to increase attendance. And I know that these funds are expiring soon. Right. What supports does the department have in place for families experiencing homelessness, including for after these funds expire?
Sure, thank you. And you identified an issue that is increasing in our country, homelessness, and making sure that our students are protected and are able to learn and the conditions for learning are right. We're requesting a $129 million budget request for FY25. Programs like preschool programs, supplemental instructions for students that fall behind because of the trauma of being housing insecure, before and after school programs, transportation. And as a school principal, let me tell you, that was the most expensive thing. Making sure the student doesn't have to bounce 5-6 different schools under the McKinney-Vento Act. to have a solid, consistent education. So transportation and then healthcare referrals is also something that is required.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Chairman, I ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record this report from Schoolhouse Connection called Overlooked and Almost Out of Time, as well as an article called Grocery Cards and Car Repairs, How COVID Aid Changed the Way Schools Can Help Homeless Kids.
No objection.
I yield back. Thank you very much.
I'd like to now recognize Ms. Hutchin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Cardona, I appreciate you being here today. I did wonder if you might show up, given that you seem to have little respect for our congressional inquiries into the goings-on at the Department of Education. As you know, I recently sent you a letter about the failed 2024-25 FAFSA rollout, but much like parents and college students across the country, as of today, we've not received a response on what you're doing to remedy the problems you created for millions of American families. So today, with my time, I'd like to ask a few of these questions now. I'm a parent to a college student and a high school senior. I'd like to understand what contributed to the delayed and ineffective rollout of the 2024-25 FAFSA.
Thank you for that question, and I just want to assure you that I take oversight very seriously, and communicating information with you is really important to us. Our department has provided over 50,000 pages and responded to 35 letters from this committee alone. I take it seriously and will continue to take it seriously. We've had many delays with FAFSA, frustrating delays that we've have been able to fix. It's working now, and I encourage students who are listening to sign up. If you sign up today.
What would you say contributed to the delays and the ineffective rollout? What were the contributing factors?
There were some programmatic issues that required our engineers to reprogram codes and have.
And how much time were you given from the time the bill passed to the time that you were supposed to roll out?
Excuse me?
The FAFSA Simplification Act, how much time were you given between the time that bill passed to the rollout date?
I believe it was passed in the last administration.
So do you know how many years that was?
It's 3 years.
3 years, okay. What is your department doing now to support students and parents who've been unable to submit it, who've been given incorrect financial aid information, or who have not received their estimates? What are you doing for those students?
Thank you for that question. That's something we take very seriously, and we are working very closely to provide resources for families and
what kinds of resources?
Well, videos on how to figure it out. We have $50 million now going into communities to make sure that we're knocking on doors for those students and families that still have to fill it out. We have tutorial videos. We have a national strategy in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, school districts. We're working closely with districts. And I have to say, we've also worked on return to repayment, USDS servicing contracts. And what we're doing now to make sure that we improve processing is make sure that our FSA department is designed for the work that's being expected of it. So we're asking for a budget increase.
Given that you had 3 years to get this right the first time, why should we expect that this upcoming FAFSA would be ready by October 1st? I know in the Senate Appropriations Committee you recently said your expectation was that it would be ready. Why should we believe that?
Well, look,
Hey everyone, it's me, Sebastian, and it is a beautiful day today. We have so much to be grateful for, so just remember, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. I just love inspiring people to be the best they can be, and the reason I'm able to inspire so many people is because people like you who inspire me with your support of Shriners Hospitals for Children. Since I was little, I've broken 100 bones, and I've had 19 surgeries. Shriners Hospitals for Children was with me every step of the way. But more than that, they've given me the confidence to know I can do whatever I set my mind to. Like right now, I've set my mind to sharing my smile with you. Did you get it?
Because of people like you, I can play the violin.
I can play piano.
I can Irish dance.
The help I get is only possible because of caring people like you who pick up the phone and call the number on your screen to make your monthly gift.
And when you call or go online right now to donate $19 a month or more, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you, and a reminder of all the smiles you're bringing to kids' faces every day.
Kids like me.
And me.
And me.
And me. So what are you waiting for? You can inspire kids like me by visiting loveshiners.org. After all, you can't help everyone, but you can help someone. So let's go!
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving. Join me and bring a smile to the world with your monthly gift today.
Please call now. If operators are busy, please call again or go to loveshriners.org right away.
Join me and bring a smile to the world.
Hi, I'm Tim Che, the director and writer of The Firing Squad. You can participate in our Million Souls campaign, inviting everyone you know to Jesus. Listen, we all face some kind of firing squad in our lives, and yet faith in the Lord, that challenge can lead us to true peace in this insane world. We can't do it without you. We're competing with big Hollywood movies, so we're relying on your voice to spread the word. Thank you again for supporting this important movie.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual, and she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I felt so much better after my son told me, "Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you and we'll figure it out."
Want to know what's really happening around the world? Join us for a deep dive discussion with our expert panel on International Reporters Roundtable.
Next, we continue our coverage of a Department of Education hearing. We'll hear testimony from Education Secretary Miguel Cardona.
This hearing is hosted by the House Committee on Education and the Workforce. Chair Virginia Fox has called it an opportunity to hold Secretary Cardona accountable for his partisan agenda.
Let's tune back into that now.
Long-term societal cost to the United States is very, very serious. So tell me a little bit of what we're doing and how we're partnering with private sector research to make sure that we are doing this in a nonpartisan, evidence-based way to deal with this really epidemic of anxiety and depression and cognitive changes for future generations.
Thank you for that question. And I just kind of bring it back to my opening statements. It said, we have a lot of common ground here, and mental health supports for our students is one of those. I'm proud that the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act provided $2 billion to increase the number of social workers in our schools. There's 40% more school social workers. I'm proud that there are 30% more nurses, that there are proactive strategies to help students address anxiety or mental health needs. We know students are 6 times more likely to access mental health supports if they're provided in our school. In our budget, we asked for $200 million for full-service community schools because we know they work to support mental health. But you mentioned what we can do together. Medicaid reimbursement for students who do not have an IEP, we simplified that process so all states could have sustainable dollars. We know that there will be a sunset of BISCA and ARPA, so we want to make sure that there's sustainable dollars, and we're working in bipartisan fashion to make sure states and governors know what to do. That's sustainable dollars for mental health. We cannot go back to the system we had in 2019 of emergency room model of mental health support.
On a related, but how you work with other departments, when I'm old enough to remember that when we did TANF reform, the biggest obstacle to people getting on their feet and getting a job, usually single women of color, were what you talked about in your opening comment, transportation and childcare. So what are we doing with the different departments to coordinate those efforts? 20 years later, we still have the same identified problem. It's become worse where I live in the Bay Area because the transportation and childcare intersect with behavioral health, by the way. For this community, be able to get a job and be independent, which is nonpartisan, hopefully nonpartisan, is still a challenge. And departments working across with each other, your department, DOT, working together and then with state agencies and local agencies?
Sure. So we have a whole of government approach on a lot of things. I mentioned the Medicaid reimbursement. We're working very closely with Health and Human Services to make sure that we're simplifying the process in an interagency fashion. In our budget proposal, in the president's budget proposal, you'll see an increase in early childhood education, which allows not only for students to address gaps before they grow, but parents are able to work, and the cost of childcare is very high. So we are working very closely at the staff level and at the secretary level to make sure that our efforts are working to support those same families.
Good. Well, I'd love to follow up with you and be able to show where our successes and failures have come about so that we continue to measure those in a thoughtful way and deal with these real epidemics that young people are facing and their parents. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize myself. Mr. Secretary, you're going through great lengths to argue that the new Title IX rule will not have an impact on athletics. Setting aside the absence of court decision preventing it, and setting aside the fact that athletics is printed over 30 times in the rule description, I have some very simple questions, straightforward questions. I just hoping to get some yes and no's on it. With energy put into Title IX rule changes, it's a 3-year effort. Can you assure us that your rules do not change protection of our girls that have had for over 50 years? Can you assure us that protecting biological girls from competing against genetically stronger, bigger, and faster biological men will not be considered a federal discrimination?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. You are referring to the athletics, am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that rule-making process is underway. We haven't...
Okay, I'm really...
And now we're interrupting this hearing to turn to President Joe Biden's keynote address at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum's annual Days of Remembrance ceremony.
He's expected to condemn anti-Semitism. Let's watch.
Memorial Museum. You're a true scholar and statesman and a dear friend. Speaker Johnson, Leader Jeffries, members of Congress, and especially the survivors of the Holocaust. My mother were here, she'd look at you and say, God love you all. God love you all. Abe Foxman and all other survivors who embody absolute courage and dignity and grace are here as well. During these sacred days of remembrance, we grieve, we give voice to the 6 million Jews who were systematically targeted and murdered by the Nazis and their collaborators during World War II. We honor the memory of victims, the pain of survivors, the bravery of heroes who stood up to Hitler's unspeakable evil, and we recommit to heading and heeding the lessons that one of the darkest chapters in human history, to revitalize and realize the responsibility of never again. Never again, simply translated for me, means never forget. Never forget. Never forgetting means we must keep telling the story. We must keep teaching the truth. We must keep teaching our children and our grandchildren. And the truth is, we're at risk of people not knowing the truth. That's why growing up, my dad taught me and my siblings about the horrors of the Shoah at our family dinner table. That's why I visited Yad Vashem with my family as a senator, as vice president, and as president. And that's why I took my grandchildren to Dachau so they could see and bear witness to the perils of indifference, the complicity of silence in the face of evil that they knew was happening. Germany, 1933. Hitler and his Nazi party rise to power by rekindling one of the world's oldest forms of prejudice and hate, anti-Semitism. His rule didn't begin with mass murder. It started slowly across economic, political, social, and cultural life. Propaganda demonizing Jews, boycotts of Jewish businesses, synagogues defaced with swastikas, harassment of Jews in the street and in the schools, anti-Semitic demonstrations, pogroms, organized riots. With the indifference of the world, Hitler knew he could expand his reign of terror by eliminating Jews from Germany, to annihilate Jews across Europe through genocide the Nazis called the final solution. Concentration camps, gas chambers, mass shootings. By the time the war ended, 6 million Jews, 1 out of every 3 Jews in the entire world, were murdered. This ancient hatred of Jews didn't begin with the Holocaust. It didn't end with the Holocaust either, or even after our victory in World War II. This hatred continues to lie deep in the hearts of too many people in the world, and it requires our continued vigilance and outspokenness. That hatred was brought to life on October 7th in 2023. On the sacred Jewish holiday, the terrorist group Hamas unleashed the deadliest day of the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Driven by ancient desire to wipe out the Jewish people off the face of the earth, over 1,200 innocent people, babies, parents, grandparents, slaughtered in their kibbutz, massacred at a music festival, brutally raped, mutilated, and sexually assaulted. Thousands more carrying wounds, bullets and shrapnel from the memory of that terrible day they endured. Hundreds taken hostage, including survivors of the Shoah. Now, here we are, not 75 years later, but just 7.5 months later, and people are already forgetting. They're already forgetting that Hamas unleashed this terror. It was Hamas that brutalized Israelis. It was Hamas who took and continues to hold hostages. I have not forgotten, nor have you, and we will not forget. And as Jews around the world still cope with the atrocities and trauma of that day and its aftermath, we've seen a ferocious surge of anti-Semitism in America and around the world. Vicious propaganda on social media. Jews forced to keep their hide, their keepers under baseball hats, tuck their Jewish stars into their shirts. On college campuses, Jewish students blocked, harassed, attacked while walking to class. Anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic posters, slogans calling for the annihilation of Israel, the world's only Jewish state. Too many people denying, downplaying, rationalizing, ignoring the horrors of the Holocaust. And October 7th, including Hamas's appalling use of sexual violence to torture and terrorize Jews. It's absolutely despicable, and it must stop. Silence. Silence and denial can hide much, but it can erase nothing. Some injustices are so heinous, so horrific, so grievous, they cannot be buried, no matter how hard people try. In my view, a major lesson of the Holocaust is, as mentioned earlier, was not inevitable. We know hate never goes away, it only hides. And given a little oxygen, it comes out from under the rocks. We also know what stops hate. One thing, all of us. The late Rabbi Jonathan Sachs described anti-Semitism as a virus that survived and mutated over time. Together, we cannot continue to let that happen. We have to remember our basic principles as a nation. We have an obligation. We have an obligation to learn the lessons of history so we don't surrender our future to the horrors of the past. We must give hate no safe harbor against anyone. Anyone. From the very founding, our very founding, Jewish Americans, who represent only about 2% of the U.S. population, have helped lead the cause of freedom for everyone in our nation. From that experience, we know scapegoating and demonizing any minority is a threat to every minority and the very foundation of our democracy. So in moments like this, we have to put these principles that we're talking about into action. I understand people have strong beliefs and deep convictions about the world. In America, we respect and protect the fundamental right to free speech, to debate and disagree, to protest peacefully, and make our voices heard. I understand that's America, but there is no place on any campus in America, any place in America, for anti-Semitism or hate speech or threats of violence of any kind. Whether against Jews or anyone else, violent attacks, destroying property is not peaceful protest. It's against the law. And we are not a lawless country. We're a civil society. We uphold the rule of law. And no one should have to hide or be brave just to be themselves. To the Jewish community, I want you to know, I see your fear, your hurt, and your pain. Let me reassure you, as your president, you're not alone. You belong. You always have and you always will. And my commitment to the safety of the Jewish people, the security of Israel, and its right to exist as an independent Jewish state is ironclad, even when we disagree. My administration is working around the clock to free remaining hostages, just as we have freed hostages already, and will not rest until we bring them all home. My administration, with our second gentleman's leadership, has launched our nation's first national strategy to counter anti-Semitism. That's mobilizing the full force of the federal government to. This is not the work of government alone or Jews alone. That's why I'm calling on all Americans to stand united against anti-Semitism and hate in all its forms. My dear friend, and he became a friend, the late Elie Wiesel said, quote, "One person of integrity can make a difference." We have to remember that, now more than ever. Here in Emancipation Hall, the U.S. Capitol, among the towering statues of history, is a bronze bust of Raoul Wallenberg. Born in Sweden as a Lutheran, he was a businessman and a diplomat. While stationed in Hungary during World War II, he used diplomatic cover to hide and rescue about 100,000 Jews over a 6-month period. Among them was a 16-year-old Jewish boy who escaped a Nazi labor camp. After the war ended, that boy received a scholarship from the Hillel Foundation to study in America. He came to New York City penniless, but determined to turn his pain into purpose, along with his wife, also a Holocaust survivor. He became a renowned economist and foreign policy thinker, eventually making his way to this very Capitol on the staff of a first-term senator. That Jewish refugee was Tom Lantos, and that senator was me. Tom and his wife Annette and their family became dear friends to me and my family. Tom would go on to become the only Holocaust survivor ever elected to Congress, where he became a leading voice on civil rights and human rights around the world. Tom never met Raoul, who was taken prisoner by the Soviets, never to be heard from again. But through Tom's efforts, Raoul's bust is here in the Capitol. He was also given honorary U.S. citizenship, only the second person ever after Winston Churchill. The Holocaust Museum here in Washington is located on a road in Raoul's name. The story of the power of a single person, humanity, to stand up to hate, and its ancient story of resilience from immense pain, persecution, to find hope, purpose, and meaning in life. We try to live and share with one another. That story endures. Let me close with this. I know these days of remembrance fall on difficult times. We all do well to remember. These days also fall during the month we celebrate Jewish American heritage, a heritage that stretches from our earliest days to enrich every single part of American life today. Great Jewish American, named Tom Lantos, used the phrase, "The veneer of civilization is paper thin." We are its guardians, and we can never rest. My fellow Americans, we must be those guardians. We must never rest. We must rise against hate, meet across the divide, see our common humanity, and God bless the victims and survivors of Shoah. May the resilient hearts, the courageous spirit, and the eternal flame of faith of the Jewish people forever shine their light on America and around the world. Pray God. Thank you all.
The adult performer known as Stormy Daniels taking the stand in Trump's so-called hush money trial today. Our legal correspondent Arlene Richards has details of her testimony.
MIT will no longer ask faculty applicants to make DEI pledges. What the school's president now says about forced diversity statements.
Attorney General Merrick Garland could be held in contempt of Congress. More about a House committee resolution connected with President Biden's interviews on classified information.
Social Security funds are expected to hit major issues in 2035, and Medicare trust fund reserves are expected to be depleted 5 years later than forecasted. What this means for your scheduled benefits.
Today marks the 200th anniversary of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. To celebrate, Berlin's State Library displays the original score, annotated by Beethoven himself.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Adult film actress Stormy Daniels took the stand today in former President Trump's criminal trial.
Here's the former president commenting on media reports of the ongoing trial.
Some of the statements made about this witch hunt on CNN, fake news CNN, Michael Moore said the proof of falsifying records has not been accomplished. On Good Morning America, they said, we heard that expense payments to lawyers are legal expenses. Also, NBC Today showed the challengers that there is no smoking gun, no email or tape to prove the president's intent. They don't have a way to prove that. That's NBC Today show. And then Fox News, Katie Cherkasky, said that the gag order is unconstitutional, which of course it is. The gag order is unconstitutional. So with all that's going on, they have no case.
Former President Trump is now back in a Manhattan courtroom for what could be called a dramatic day of testimony.
Earlier this morning, publisher Sally Franklin briefly took the stand, but the focus of the day is the testimony of the prosecution's key witness, Stormy Daniels.
And we turn now to our legal correspondent Arlene Richards outside the courthouse with the latest.
Arlene, this may be a tough day for the former president as he faces the woman who's at the heart of this case. What can you tell us about Ms. Daniels' testimony so far?
Daniels says
as a former adult film star, Stormy Daniels is a colorful witness. She walked into the courtroom today wearing all black with her sunglasses on her forehead. Now, she talked very fast during her testimony so far, as there is a break going on right now, but she spoke very fast, and the prosecution and the judge had to tell her to slow down. Now, she started off talking about her background, and she testified that she came from a very low-income family that had some problems. But she managed to graduate from high school in the top 10, and she was also given a scholarship to Texas A&M, but she never completed college. She says she turned to the world of exotic dance and adult film after one of her friends encouraged her, and she thought that she could make a lot of money.
Okay, now Daniels has alleged that she had a one-night stand with Trump and that this is what prosecutors say he paid her to keep quiet about. Since there are some credibility issues with this witness, how did the prosecution try to get around that?
I think they're trying to use her testimony right now to show the jury that she was in fact in Trump's hotel suite with him alone. Now, she talked about how she met him at a celebrity golf event and that she was distributing adult films at that event and that she made sure that Trump got one of her best films. She says he later asked her out to dinner, which she first rejected, but then later she accepted. She then goes on to describe how she arrived at the hotel and went to the penthouse suite where the door was on a crack, and then she opened the door to see him there greeting her in what she said were silk or satin pajamas. She later then goes into recounting and describing in detail how the suite looked. Talking about the furniture, where the furniture was positioned, the size of the rooms, and the location of all the different things in that room. And so this is how I think the prosecution right now is trying to show that she was there in his hotel suite, although they haven't yet gotten to an actual affair.
Arlene, how helpful will Stormy Daniels' testimony be to the prosecution's case?
Well, in terms of showing the jury that Trump had a desire to cover up an alleged affair before the 2016 campaign, I think her testimony will be very helpful. But on the other hand, as a lot of legal experts have said, her testimony is not going to help very much with their key claim in this case, which is that he falsified business records. Back to you.
All right, thank you for that update, Arlene. And coming up, deadly tornadoes, hail, and wind gusts hit the Great Plains. We have more on the damage in Oklahoma and elsewhere.
An abortion is in the spotlight in Idaho. More on a courtroom battle over minors crossing state lines for an abortion without parental consent.
What are the worst cities in the U.S. to drive in? Well, not New York or Los Angeles, as you might have thought. Find out more in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
One in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, not enough energy to play. All around the world, hunger is affecting children's physical and mental health. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. Conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we are fed up. Fed up that hunger devours dreams. Fed up that hunger destroys joy. Fed up with the fact that hunger eats childhood. Help us feed the futures of children all over the world by visiting getfedupnow.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back.
When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients, prevent children from dropping out of school, support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Having your childhood eaten away by hunger is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit getfedupnow.org.
When I drink it, the first thing was I feel the warmth in my tummy. It's kind of like gently radiating out, a kind of a very comforting warmth. And it was really good, actually. I felt much better. I did feel, actually, an effect. And I find that it is actually better when I take it regularly.
It's actually steamed and dried 9 times. And so it's really, the essence is really extracted.
Then a second time, I tried it really like on an empty stomach and just 2 teaspoons of it, and over a few times. And wow, there was a big difference, because suddenly I could feel, wow, I was very good energized. I didn't have to eat. I could work outside in the garden for a couple of hours, and I still felt very well. And I was impressed by that. So I think it's a good product.
We're in the nation's capital asking the important questions so that you're in the know. Join us daily, Monday through Friday, on the Capitol Report on NTD News.
And turning now to updates on the Israel-Hamas war.
Israeli tanks are entering Rafah as an Israeli delegation heads to Cairo for ceasefire talks.
The War Cabinet unanimously decided Israel will continue its operation in Rafah in order to apply military pressure on Hamas to release our hostages and achieve all the war's objectives. Despite Hamas's grandstanding, Hamas's proposal is far from Israel's core demands. Nevertheless, Israel will dispatch a ranking delegation to Egypt to maximize any chance of an agreement on terms acceptable to Israel.
Israeli forces today took control of the Gaza side of the Rafah border crossing. The point of entry has been key to delivering humanitarian aid, but Israel said terrorists have also been using the crossing.
An Israeli source told NBC that this is a very limited operation to put pressure on Hamas during ceasefire talks, and that it's not the start of the ground offensive Israel has promised.
People in Gaza continue to flee Rafah following evacuation orders. The Israeli military said the vast majority of people in eastern Rafah have evacuated.
CIA Director William Burns is in Cairo along with Israeli delegates for ceasefire and hostage negotiations. A major disagreement is over whether the 33 hostages released in the first round would be living or dead. Hamas said they could include dead bodies, while Israel demands living hostages.
And moments ago at the Capitol, President Biden delivered the keynote address at the Holocaust Memorial Museum's Days of Remembrance ceremony.
But there is no place on any campus in America, any place in America, for anti-Semitism or hate speech or threats of violence of any kind, whether against Jews or anyone else. Violent attacks, destroying property, is not peaceful protest. It's against the law. And we are not a lawless country. We're a civil society. We uphold the rule of law. And no one should have to hide or be brave just to be themselves.
The event honors the 6 million Jews killed in the Holocaust and recommits to heeding the lessons of that dark chapter with the words, "Never again."
Biden addressed the horrors of October 7th, as well as what he called the alarming rise in anti-Semitism that followed in the U.S.
His speech comes as the NYPD arrested 24 protesters during the anti-Israel march toward the Met Gala last night.
The protesters marched to Central Park, defaced a World War I memorial, and placed a Palestinian flag over a Civil War monument. One person is dead and more were injured when a tornado tore through Oklahoma. Thousands are without power following destructive storms in the Great Plains.
The area between Barnsdall and Bartlesville, north of Tulsa, were both most hard hit. Video footage shows the storm touching down late Monday. The twister damaged dozens of homes.
This is the second tornado that hit the town of Barnsdall in just 5 weeks. Tornado damage was also reported in Sullivan, Missouri, and DeKalb County, Tennessee.
Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska all experienced hail and strong wind gusts. The weather forecast shows thunderstorms moving north today into the Midwest and the Tennessee Valley.
Outage trackers show that about 10,000 people are still without power as of right now. Attorney General Merrick Garland could be held in contempt of Congress. The House Judiciary Committee is scheduled to mark up a resolution, according to the Epoch Times, citing sources familiar with the situation. This comes after Garland refused to hand over audio tapes of President Biden's interview regarding classified information.
The committee will discuss and amend the resolution before sending it to the House floor. Whether Speaker Mike Johnson will bring it for a vote remains uncertain.
A pair of House committees issued subpoenas to the Justice Department on February 27th. They demand transcripts and recordings from Robert Hur's probe into President Biden's handling of classified documents.
The Justice Department argues against handing over the tapes, saying transcripts suffice. The standoff has led to repeated threats of contempt proceedings.
Meanwhile, Hur's report concluded that prosecuting Biden was unwarranted, citing evidential and cognitive factors. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene says talks to possibly remove House Speaker Mike Johnson will continue.
The Georgia Congresswoman is leading an effort to mobilize hardline conservatives against Johnson. That sentiment intensified last month when he helped pass a major foreign aid package with assistance for Ukraine.
Greene met with Johnson for 2 hours yesterday, but would not say what they discussed.
I have been patient, I have been diligent, I have been steady, and I've been focused on the facts. And none of that has changed. So I just had a long discussion with the Speaker in his office about ways to move forward for a Republican-controlled House of Representatives.
I had a lengthy, constructive meeting, I think, with Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. I just want to say, and I told them, and I've said this repeatedly, that I understand the frustration, I share it. I would really like to advance much more of our conservative policy on a daily basis here, but the reality is we are working with the smallest majority in U.S. history with a one-vote margin.
The two lawmakers said they will meet again today based on Monday's discussion.
Greene says she plans to push a vote on ousting Johnson this week. If she goes through with that, it's unlikely to succeed. Democratic leaders in the chamber have said they will vote to kill the effort.
Many Republicans are also opposed to the move. They don't want to see their party distracted by infighting, like when Kevin McCarthy was ousted from the same role last year. And Indiana is holding primaries today. Several congressional district contests and the race for governor are garnering the most attention. The leading candidate to replace term-limited Governor Eric Holcomb and is Trump-backed Senator Mike Braun.
An April poll showed Braun with a large lead over multiple challengers, even though he faced criticism in the past for supporting the Black Lives Matter movement and saying he would join their march.
With Braun running for governor, Republicans have united behind Congressman Jim Banks to replace him in the U.S. Senate.
The most notable House races on the ballot are the Republican primaries in the 3rd District, which Banks is giving up to run for Senate, as well as the 5th, 6th, and 8th districts. Tiffany Smiley, a Republican and veteran advocate, enters the race for Washington's 4th congressional district. She aims to unseat Congressman Dan Newhouse, one of 10 Republicans who voted to impeach Trump.
Smiley has criticized Newhouse's impeachment vote, although she didn't mention it in her campaign announcement. Instead, her platform is to combat government dysfunction and prioritize fiscal responsibility.
She also emphasizes border security, linking it to national security about illegal immigration and drug trafficking.
Besides Newhouse, Smiley must also contend with the Trump-endorsed candidate in the primary, Navy veteran Jared Sessler. And MIT will no longer ask faculty applicants to make DEI pledges. The school's president says people shouldn't be forced to submit a statement about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Mandatory DEI statements have become increasingly common in academic job applications. A 2021 study found that 19% of colleges require diversity statements. Elite schools were found to be 21% more likely to require them.
MIT is now the first elite school to backtrack on that. The decision is being made by President Sally Kornbluth and backed by a number of officials within the school.
Kornbluth says she's still committed to fostering an inclusive environment, but emphasizes that mandatory statements hurt free speech and that they don't work. And Idaho is asking a federal appeals court to revive a 2023 abortion law. The law makes it illegal to assist a minor to cross state lines for an abortion without parental consent. The legislation was blocked by a judge in November. The judge ruled that the law violated free speech rights and lacked clarity on what constitutes illegal abortion trafficking.
Idaho argues abortion advocate groups lack legal standing to bring the case and that the state has the right to protect parental rights.
Idaho bans almost all abortions, with exceptions to save the mother's life and for rape or incest that is reported to police. However, the state borders Washington, Oregon, and Montana, which all allow more abortions.
Abortion groups argue the law infringes on interstate travel and First Amendment rights. Social Security and Medicare won't be able to fully pay benefits starting in just over a decade, according to a new report. The annual report from the entitlement program's trustees says if Congress doesn't address the pending shortfalls, there will be fewer options. The report says the combined Social Security trust funds are expected to be exhausted in 2035. Following that, payroll tax revenue and other income sources will only be able to cover 83% of benefits owed. Meanwhile, Medicare funds are expected to be able to cover scheduled inpatient hospital benefits until 2036. In 2023, around 67 million Americans received Social Security benefits. Both President Biden and former President Trump have promised during their campaigns to protect Social Security and Medicare.
And a Tennessee-based company is being fined for illegally hiring children to clean meat processing plants. Fayette Janitorial Service agreed to pay over $600,000 in civil penalties. In the court-ordered mandate, the company also agreed to no longer employ minors.
A federal investigation found they illegally hired at least 24 children to clean dangerous meat processing facilities in Iowa and Virginia. Federal law prohibits minors to work in meat processing plants because of the hazards.
The Labor Department alleged that Fayette used 15 underage workers at a plant in Virginia and at least 9 in Iowa.
The work included cleaning head splitters, jaw pullers, and meat band saws. One 14-year-old was severely injured while working at the plant in Virginia. As for Boeing's commercial plane division, the Federal Aviation Administration has details on a new investigation. It says Boeing employees may have neglected some inspections for the 787 Dreamliner jets. The FAA wants to figure out if the inspections did actually happen or if employees falsified records. Regulators say a Boeing engineer came forward publicly last month with quality control allegations about several Boeing models, including the Dreamliner. The Boeing executive overseeing the 787 program shared an internal memo with CNN. In it, he wrote that the issue is an instance of misconduct, but not an immediate flight safety issue. During the investigation, the FAA says Boeing employees will inspect the Dreamliners not yet delivered to airline customers.
And Boeing's Starliner isn't going to space just yet. NASA postponed yesterday's launch of the first manned test flight. NASA said there's a problem with the Atlas V rocket that carries the Starliner. The mission was scrubbed just 2 hours before liftoff, with 2 crew members strapped in and waiting for the countdown. The Starliner capsule was going to take the 2 astronauts to the International Space Station.
A spokesman said a pressure relief valve on the Atlas rocket started fluttering open and closed, making a loud sound. The valve might need to be replaced, delaying the launch until next week.
Engineers will determine if the valve is still usable. The launch team could try again as soon as Friday. And the worst city in the United States to drive in may not be your first guess. It's not New York, nor Los Angeles. The worst city in the U.S. to drive in overall is Oakland, California. That's according to a recent study from Forbes Advisor. The study looked at 47 metro areas and considered a number of metrics, including driving experience, safety, cost of car ownership, and access to car maintenance. Oakland got the top spot for several reasons: a high number of fatal crashes, high gas prices, and long average commute times. Miami was the second worst city to drive in, followed by San Francisco, Houston, and Philadelphia. As for the best city to drive in, according to Forbes Advisor, it's Raleigh, North Carolina. Raleigh earned good marks for safety, driving experience, and cost of vehicle ownership. In breaking news, we just learned that TikTok is taking legal action against the U.S. government. That's to block a law forcing the app's Chinese owner to sell or face a ban.
The lawsuit argues that the bill violates free speech rights protected by the Constitution. TikTok argues that alleging national security concerns alone does not justify limitations on free speech.
The lawsuit states that Congress hasn't provided evidence to justify the law or prove any specific harm caused by TikTok.
The U.S. law gives China's ByteDance until January 19th to sell TikTok, but the legal proceedings are expected to delay any potential ban or sale of the app for years.
And coming up, 2 Ukrainian security officials allegedly planned to kill President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. The charges against them and other details we know so far.
Britain suspects that China is behind the hacking of the armed forces payroll system. Details and updates on the military cyber attack.
An Australian military helicopter has to dodge flares from a Chinese fighter jet. The Australian Prime Minister calls the incident unacceptable. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
Hi, folks. Do you trust this economy? What if you could receive a strong fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed? And what if you were in control? You could turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose. What if your interest was compounded daily, you were paid monthly, and there were absolutely no fees? And what if you could have peace of mind because there was no attack on your principal if you ever needed your money back? Well, folks, there is an investment with all of these features. Investors all over the country are earning a high fixed rate of return with Refi, and they don't care about what happened with the stock market or the Fed. And best of all, they receive their statement every month with no surprises. Would you like some more information? Just call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST. Or log on to investwhyrefi.com. That's investwhyrefi.com. Refi, do well by doing good.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I had heard many times that heart disease is the #1 killer. It went in one ear and out the other, frankly. I never had a health issue. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. But a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. By the time I got to the ER, the doctor decided to give me a CAT scan. He said, "I don't think you understand. You are on the verge of a heart attack." I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. With you by our side, together we'll keep fighting this battle. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. Put yourself on your to-do list. It could be the most important thing you ever do. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Wright. We thank you for joining us and watching America's Hope here on NTD News. Bottom line is, I know you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but let's give you some good news in the midst of the bad news. Watch us nightly, right here on NTD News, for a full dose of America's Hope.
Welcome back. Ukrainian artillery units are being pinned down by Russian attack drones. That's amid a critical shell shortage as Ukraine awaits shipments from the U.S. military aid package. Here's the story.
This hulking German-supplied howitzer rumbles out of its forest hideout. It only has a few minutes to fire before slipping back under cover to evade Russian surveillance in the skies above. Ukrainian artillery units are playing a cat-and-mouse game to avoid Russian drones hunting high-value weapons like this self-propelled Panzerhaubitze 2000. Crews, including the 43rd Artillery Brigade, say they face increasing harassment from enemy drones, now a staple of Russia's arsenal. This battery commander, who goes by the call sign Lyova, says his unit had been directly hit 4 times by Russian high-tech attack drones.
They use a lot more strike drones, like Privet 82. They have different variations of Lancet drones, which were upgraded. They have cumulative high-explosive warheads. There were attacks before, but not the same amount. Now it's really scary.
Western-supplied artillery, like the German howitzer, is a priority target for Moscow. It has pledged to focus its strikes on these types of weapons.
The situation has become more difficult because they have a lot of electronic warfare equipment. They don't allow our birds to fly over their territory. Thus, it's harder to detect targets and hit them. The other reason are their kamikaze strike drones. They have an abundance of Zala and Orlan drones. Sometimes it happens that there's lots of work for the day, but we can't move because something is always flying above. If these birds could be shot down or jammed, we'd be more effective and could work more.
Like other Ukrainian artillery units, the 43rd Brigade faces a critical shell shortage that limits the howitzer's potential, forcing it to fire far fewer shells per day. Ukrainian troops across the sprawling front are anxiously awaiting shipments from a long-delayed $61 billion US military aid package. Repairing the vehicle is also a challenge. The availability of spare parts is limited, and the navigation system frequently malfunctions and is difficult to fix on the battlefield. Stavnichi, like many others, is calling for more electronic warfare systems to jam the Russian drones.
The main problem here is spare parts and shells. But even if there were parts and shells, you'd have the problem of enemy birds. So everything needs to work together in a system. Electronic warfare and surveillance, artillery. Then our hit percentage would be much higher. This is what I think.
And now we have some short headlines from Russia, the UK, and other European countries. U.S. officials say an American soldier has been detained in Russia since last week. He was reportedly stationed in South Korea and traveled to Russia on his own.
Moscow authorities accused him of stealing from a woman and arrested him on charges of, quote, criminal misconduct.
The U.S. Army said his family has been told about the situation, and the State Department is working to provide consular support.
The soldier is just one of several Americans who are detained in Russia.
Russian President Vladimir Putin today said that he's not ruling out dialogue with the West. He made remarks as he took the oath for a new 6-year term.
Putin says he's open to strengthening good relations with all countries that see Russia as a reliable and honest partner.
He said dialogue is, quote, possible, but not from a position of force. He added that any discussions must be done as equals, respecting each other's interests.
Putin said Western countries have to choose whether they'll continue what he called a policy of aggression.
2 Ukrainian security officials allegedly planned to kill President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. The 2 men were colonels in Ukraine's State Guard service. Ukraine says they leaked classified information to Moscow.
Then the two were allegedly tasked with finding someone close to the presidential guard who would take Zelenskyy hostage and later kill him.
One of them is also being charged with aiding in the preparation of a terrorist act. He reportedly received 2 drones and ammunition from Russia to transfer to an accomplice. The goal was to take out another high-ranking official in an explosion. In the UK, students at Oxford University have set up a pro-Palestinian encampment. They're protesting the war in Gaza following the example of campus demonstrations in the U.S.
Some faculty members joined the students. They erected dozens of tents outside the Oxford University Museum of Natural History.
The students also listed their demands on a poster. They want the university to divest from Israel and support the rebuilding of education in Gaza. London Mayor Sadiq Khan signed the Declaration of Office today. That's after being re-elected for a 3rd term.
He claimed over 43% of the vote. The Conservative candidate only got 33%.
London is the latest of several British councils where the Labour Party is defeating the Conservative Party. Some polls predict the party will win the next national election. This would end 14 years of Conservative government in Britain. And the personal information of Britain's armed forces have been hacked. British media says the hackers are linked to China. British officials said today that the names and bank details of thousands of serving British soldiers, sailors, and Air Force members have been exposed. In a few cases, addresses may also have been exposed.
The British Defense Secretary is expected to make a statement later today about and lay out a multi-point plan to support and protect affected service members. Earlier this year, the U.S. and the U.K. charged 7 hackers linked to China. They were accused of targeting U.S. officials, journalists, among others. German authorities raided a European Parliament member's office in Brussels. It's related to an aide who was accused of spying for China.
Jian Ji, the aide to Maximilian Krah of the right-wing Alternative for Germany party, was arrested last month.
At the time of the arrest, Krah said he learned about it from the media and denied personal wrongdoing.
German prosecutors say authorities searched both Krah's office and that of the former aide.
Krah confirmed the searches and said it didn't affect his work.
And a Chinese fighter jet endangered an Australian military helicopter during a confrontation over the Yellow Sea. That's according to Australian officials. The country's prime minister commented on the incident earlier today.
We have made very strong representations at every level to China about this incident, which we regard as unprofessional and unacceptable. Australian Defence Force personnel were going about their job in international waters, but also in international skies, to support the United Nations in the sanctions that they have against the North Korean regime.
Australia's defence minister said the Chinese Air Force jet dropped flares near an Australian Seahawk helicopter on a routine flight on Saturday. It was part of an operation to enforce sanctions against North Korea.
The helicopter dodged the flares. Australia's Department of Defence said the confrontation put the aircraft and those on board at risk, but no one was hurt. And a knife attack at a hospital in southwestern China today. Local authorities say 2 people were killed and 21 others injured.
A witness told the Chinese Epoch Times that several people carried out the attack. The victims include 3 doctors, a baby, and some senior citizens. The witness said one doctor had his face cut 5 times.
Another witness said 2 suspects were arrested, and a local resident said she heard some suspects are still at large.
The motive behind the attack is unknown. Private gun ownership is illegal in China. However, the country has seen a series of knife attacks in recent years, including several at elementary schools. And turning now to India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi cast his vote as Phase 3 of the country's massive general election kicks off. Voting today will cover 93 seats in 11 states and territories, with some western and southern states holding almost half these seats.
So far, voting has taken place for over half of Parliament's 543 elected seats. Modi is seeking a rare 3rd term.
He's running for the Hindu Nationalist Party. Over 24 opposition parties are running against him.
Despite this, surveys suggest he will win a comfortable majority. The country's elections began on April 19th. It will continue in 7 phases before ballots are counted on June 4th.
And Thailand's new ministers gathered in Bangkok for a group photo after Prime Minister's recent cabinet reshuffle.
A retired diplomat was appointed as the new foreign minister after his predecessor resigned.
The former foreign minister was known for his role in securing the release of the Thai hostages held by Hamas in Gaza.
The shakeup is significant as Thailand focuses on diplomatic efforts amid escalating conflicts in neighboring Burma, also known as Myanmar.
Coming up, centuries-old music remains a part of modern life. More on a traditional woodwind instrument in Azerbaijan and Turkey that just made the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage.
And today marks the 200th anniversary of Beijing's 9th Symphony. To celebrate, Berlin displays the original score annotated by Beethoven himself. We'll check it out shortly here on NTD News Today.
A performance that truly matters. For each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. Coming to Lincoln Center, NJ-PAC, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. Starting March 28th. Tickets at shenyun.com.
I was born into the wrong body, Mom.
I was astounded by what they were teaching. Child Protective Services did show up at my house. Parents are fearful of losing custody of their children because they say the wrong thing. Risks?
No risks. We got everything covered, I assure you, Mrs. Connors.
They don't want anyone to know the truth.
I can't stay quiet about this anymore. It's destroyed my hope.
We're pushed into silence.
This is an important message from USA Family Protection. You may now be eligible for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day.
Mom, it's so great to see you.
Oh, you too, son. And I have to tell you, I've been thinking about the future, and it's really important to me that I don't leave you and your sister with my debts, especially the cost of my funeral and other final expenses, which can be more than $9,000.
Yeah. That would be really hard on us.
Well, I called USA Family Protection, and with one phone call, I was eligible for $50,000 for my funeral and final expenses.
But what about your health issues? Don't they require a medical exam?
That's the best part. There's no medical exam, just a few quick questions, and I was able to get coverage right over the phone. Plus, my rates can never be increased, my benefits can never be decreased, and my coverage can never be canceled.
That's really great, Mom. But can you afford it?
Yes. Rates start at less than $1 a day, and when the time comes, payout to you and your sister happens in as little as a few days. I am so happy to know you two are taken care of.
Thanks, Mom. Me too.
Don't leave your loved ones with your debt. Call USA Family Protection at 800-760-6571 and get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, just a few health questions, and you can be approved right over the phone. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call 800-760-6571. There's no hidden fees and no waiting periods to get covered. Call 800-760-6571. There's no obligation. Call 800-760-6571.
For the day's top headlines and the news you need to know, tune in right here to NTD Evening News.
A traditional woodwind instrument in Azerbaijan and Turkey was recently added to the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage. The music plays an important cultural role and is often performed at folk festivals, weddings, and concerts. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
In the past, musicians learned to play the balaban by listening to the old masters. Now this centuries-old instrument is part of modern life, taught at high schools, universities, and conservatories in Azerbaijan.
From antiquity to this day, this tool has been used. Thankfully, in recent times, we have already been using it in a broader modern form of education.
Ilham Najafov has taught hundreds of students. Some of his pupils have won prizes at international competitions.
Our students have been growing in this area for many years. There are those who have completed a master's degree. In addition, our students also won grand prizes in domestic and international competitions.
This second-year conservatory student has been in love with the balaban since childhood.
I chose this instrument because the balaban instrument has a softer sound, and I like the technique and sound more. The other instruments are also beautiful, but for me the sound of the balaban instrument is more pleasant.
The balaban is one of the oldest woodwind instruments in Azerbaijan. It also plays a significant role in the music culture of Turkey. In December 2023, the balaban was added to the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage.
There is an archaeological find with a history of about 2,500 years. There's an area called Black Hill near Bargashad village of Ujar region in Azerbaijan. Archaeologists found a silver ring there, and the image of a balaban singer was engraved on the silver ring.
The instrument is traditionally made of plum or apricot wood and coated with linseed or olive oil. Once dry, crafters drill several holes into the instrument.
Making a balaban instrument is usually not a long process. First, when preparing, it is important to cut the apricot tree. By cutting an apricot tree in the autumn, you can see if it has worms. After cutting the tree, it should be stored so that the cut part does not crack. If it cracks, it will be useless.
Interest in the instrument has gone up, and experts hope the UNESCO title will further help the art form endure. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Today marks the 200th anniversary of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. To celebrate, Berlin's State Library is displaying the original score annotated by Beethoven himself. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on the music, complete with traces of the composition process.
Beethoven's Ninth Symphony made its world premiere on May 7, 1824 in Vienna. Berlin Library restorer Margaret Polasek says that displaying original Beethoven writings like these mark a special occasion.
They are not exhibited very often because they are Beethoven's own writings. They are only shown every few years on special occasions, either here in our house or in the context of exhibitions on request that they are then actually shown in other places, but usually at intervals of several years.
Since its premiere, the Ninth Symphony and its famous finale and fourth movement, the Ode to Joy, have resounded across the world to mark special occasions. It is the anthem of Europe, was performed after the fall of the Berlin Wall, and is often heard at peace protests. One of the library books is the complete score of the Ninth Symphony. Then there are several smaller booklets and Beethoven's actual notes.
So the thicker book is the complete score of the Ninth Symphony. And then there are several smaller booklets that are called fascicles, which are centered around certain smaller sections of the score, but also Beethoven's autograph.
Ludwig van Beethoven died in 1827 at age 56 in Vienna, but exhibits like these ensure that the composer's music lives on. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
This next story is interesting. A 101-year-old American Airlines passenger is feeling young again. According to the BBC, an error in the carrier's booking system makes her show up as a 2-year-old child.
Patricia is a baby in the eyes of American Airlines. That's because the carrier isn't able to calculate that the centenarian was born in 1922, not 2022.
However, the system error is making air travel somewhat difficult.
In one instance, she couldn't fly because the airline was only prepared to accommodate an infant.
Nevertheless, she plans to keep flying.
Oh, good for her. For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
And be sure to stick around for NTD Newsroom at 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll cover more stories from the U.S. and around the world. 。
A faith rich in beauty and tradition, uplifting the mind and body, persevering through decades of persecution. Watch our special coverage of the 2024 World Falun Dafa Day Parade live from New York City, starting 11 a.m. Eastern Time, here on NTD.